just as we discussed Batman versus Superman 5 years ago, we discussed that movie ad nauseum, 3 hours straight in the middle of the night. And instead of watching instead of watching Justice League and then discussing, we were going to go through, right now we're going to watch the prologue, and now we've watched it, now we're going to talk about it. And then we'll watch part 1, part 2, part 3. And this is very akin to when Jesus and I watched Watchmen for the first time together.
True.
Where we basically would watch a bit of it, pause, because there was just so much to talk about with that movie. Such a fucking dense experience. And then it took us like 13 hours, which, this is going to take about the same.
It unfortunately that was never recorded, so it was just lost to the ether. But that is the reason we don't pause during movies for the most part, because we will just fucking talk forever and never actually finish anything. And
to the detriment of Godfather.
Oh my god!
We both have not truly seen Godfather because when we did, we just talked for the whole damn thing.
I think the only thing that strikes my mind is oh wow, that sure is a great shot at the end.
Yeah.
At some point I was like, oh, it's out, it's over now.
Damn. Let us start with dissecting this prologue.
Mm-hmm.
Something I fucking love about Zack Snyder's way of tackling a continuous epic like Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and now Justice League is the beginning of the movie beginning at the end of the last one.
Recontextualize.
Right.
Yep.
Just as we saw with Man of Steel and Bruce Wayne's perspective of Batman versus Superman.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great mirror of the beginning of Batman versus Superman. It propels Bruce Wayne into action, driven by hate and fear of Superman.
Yes.
Whereas this is the same. It's now from Bruce Wayne's perspective of Superman dying, but it's his death that now propels him into action driven by hope, faith, and optimism.
Mm-hmm. And it's the great thing about this moment is that it's so much more than just what Batman is experiencing in these moments. It's the larger impact of the death of Superman. This is going to be, as Lex Luthor said, the bell that cannot be unrung. This is the moment that we see the mother boxes are coming to life, everything is happening, and it's because Superman died at the hands of Doomsday.
Yeah, so that's that takes me to the score in this opening. The sweeping score that plays as the cry of Superman goes throughout the earth, waking up the mother boxes, calling out to Darkseid. What that does with the score has this wailing sort of quality. It's you're hearing everyone on Earth mourning through the score. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which congruently takes Bruce Wayne, as I said before, propelling him into action as we see it go from mother box to mother box, and it ends with Bruce Wayne being carried by this score to Aquaman to form the Justice League. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But I think even more noteworthy than the score that is present is a score that is not present. Because if you remember, this moment where Superman is stabbed in Batman vs. Superman is played with this beautiful, dun dun dun. It's epic, It is the biggest moment in the film.
Yeah.
But here, we don't have any of that. It is just a man being stabbed and screaming into the endless night as if there's any music at all, it's so quiet as to be drowned out by the screaming.
Yeah. You describe perfectly accurate for the beginning of the prologue.
Yes.
At the end of the prologue, however, when he's in the Arctic, that is where the score is carrying Bruce.
That's what I want to highlight, because I think there's something so powerful about if you take a moment and you put epic music behind it in a film, it becomes something greater than it is.
Yeah.
And but when you take away that music, what are you left with?
Yeah.
So in Superman's case, it's a man screaming his lungs out as he dies at the hands of a monster.
Yeah.
It's not this triumphant moment of conquest with a bittersweet death. It is a man crying out as he dies.
Yeah.
That is that's amazing. And then that branches out into what causes everything. Like it's so beautiful in what it accomplishes by choosing to not have something like play in the background of this man screaming his lungs out.
But as well as Bruce Wayne, so as we see, seeing Superman die is propelling Bruce Wayne. It is also propelling the villain, and that's what I love about this single action, the death of Superman. In this moment, it is both. It is like driving the hero and the villain. This moment is what drives Steppenwolf to Earth.
Yeah.
And it is what drives Batman. So, we are seeing both the hero and the villain in one moment set on their course for this movie.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
is tight fucking filmmaking.
And what I really appreciate is that Batman is essentially the protagonist of this film. Essentially what has happened over the course of these three films is Man of Steel, we set up Superman as our protagonist, and he learned what it meant to be a hero and what role he would play in this world, right? Batman vs. Superman tests that, and Batman is the antagonist of that film for Superman, especially early on, where it represents like hate and like fear, right? And Superman is the hope that kind of like distinguishes that fear.
Yeah, the
right?
potential for every man or woman to do good.
Exactly. But now that Superman has died, now that hope is gone, a new sense of hope needs to be found, and Batman is hoping he becomes a protagonist of this film, taking the reins that Superman left behind when he died, and trying to find that new like sense of hope.
Yeah.
That thing that the world could rely on. And that is like truly beautiful how we see this story progress, and like the essentially Superman give the responsibility of like protecting the Earth to Batman.
Yeah. I will absolutely die on this fucking hill. This movie, it is the grandest, absolute best of the best fucking piece of cinema ever crafted. I mean, this is huge. So many things, like you were saying, the choice of having no music in the beginning. This movie is like, there are many, many conformist decisions that will go into making a movie. Because a broad audience won't, vibe with it, right?
Right.
That is not this movie. We see right from the first fucking shot the stake driven through Superman's heart, bloody, no score, slow motion, beams, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Long shots. I mean, a lesser director would just like cut, you know what I mean? Like, or just say, oh, what happened in the last movie? We don't need it, like Marvel does. You know what I mean? This movie stands on its own. I mean, as a series, I mean, this is Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League is part 3 in a 5-film arc, right? But what this movie does on its own, because it has the seed of Man of Steel that planted, the raw atmosphere that these movies would carry on, and the foundation for this film in particular, the Batman versus Superman laid. You don't have this movie without Batman versus Superman.
Right.
I can talk about how I like this more than Batman versus Superman, but without Batman versus Superman, you don't have these characters. You know what I mean?
I think the one thing that I really appreciate about Zack Snyder's like films and how they flow into one another is that there's something really sad about the way that like other comic book movies and like big franchises kind of like utilize this big franchise. So like an Avengers movie is to a certain extent like hinging on the previous films and little details here and there, but ultimately they are meant to be watched as self-contained stories because each film is separate from one another. Yes, some of them better than others lead into one another and whatnot, but ultimately each of them are relatively self-contained. But like Zack Snyder isn't creating just like a bunch of one-off films. He's creating like a story that is unfolding over like 5 parts.
Yeah.
It's like it's essentially, if you were to put them all together, it is like the world's like 20-hour film, you know?
So that's the thing. When you look at Marvel, what they stretched, all the filler, all the jokes, all the quips for 23 movies is what Zack would have done in 5. Because he has no room for filler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
if you are gonna have a conflict that involves Darkseid, you're not just gonna throw him in at the end as a grin.
Yeah.
Darkseid is throughout this movie. You know what I mean? And conversely, after Loki failed in Avengers, if it were directed by Zack Snyder, Darkseid would be knocking on that door the next day.
Yeah.
And that is not the way of Avengers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
for
is
sure.
oh, well, now we have Ultron and we have the Sokovia Accords, and it's just like, well, where's Thanos? Like, I thought Earth was important. You know what I mean? But
Yeah. Oftentimes, like, I think that the Sokovia Accords are one of the better elements of like the world being influenced by the existence of previous films. But like there are other movies that where like it feels like here's just like for instance, whenever they split off from an Avengers movie into more solo films, there are very few of them that feel like this is an evolution. It feels like this is just kind of like a one-off side story. It feels like a B plot.
what I'm saying with the Sokovia Accords is Zack Snyder would not do the Sokovia Accords right after Justice League 1 before Justice League 2 because unless you have the governments being like, oh, let's introduce the Sokovia Accords, and then Darkseid knocks on the door.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that's what I mean. You have like a 2.5 hour movie followed by like 3 other 2.5 hour movies that you're just sitting there like, wait, I thought Thanos was like ready. I thought he was gonna come. But
Yeah, he did. Like, I don't remember. It might have been Avengers 2, but like, there's like this whole big moment. You got to do it yourself if you want something done right. And it's like awesome, and then you got to wait 5 movies before he does anything. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. The that is the power of Man of Steel leading into Batman versus Superman, leading into this.
And I want to stress that, like, I think there are things to appreciate about the more self-contained storytelling that Marvel at times is really good at doing. But I think that it falls flat in other regards, and it doesn't always utilize that style to its benefit. Sometimes it's to its detriment. This Zack Snyder style is not inherently superior, but the way that Zack actually like what's the word for it? Like he actually like accomplishes it is better.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
it's just it's all in execution, not in the idea.
Well, that's the
of it.
thing is Zack Snyder's work, Batman versus Superman, Justice League. These are, I can grade on the purest level of self-contained and episodic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could go for hours discussing how Batman versus Superman is one of the greatest things ever made on its own, and then also discuss its grander part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can't fucking do that with Marvel. You know what I mean? Because with Endgame, it's just literally just a series of end moments. You know what I mean?
There are Endgame is a hard one, especially coming off of Infinity War. That movie just really falls flat compared to Infinity War. Like not even comparing it to like a film like Justice League, which I would consider like way out of its league.
Yeah.
I just even off of Infinity War, which I think is a fantastic film, like Endgame just doesn't compare. There's so many things that like make that story fall apart. But I think one of the bigger ones is the time travel element. But this is not an Endgame podcast, so let's move off from that topic. But I totally agree with you that like these films like they manage something that like films like Endgame and the other Avengers films just couldn't do.
Absolutely. And this is what is encompassed in this first prologue is the death Superman and how on its own this standalone it shows you how important Superman's death is because we will not see him for hours now, and you really it feels like what I say when you kill someone. If you're gonna bring him back, you have to make it feel like it's been, you know what I mean, significant, and it does.
Yeah.
In this 4-hour movie, Superman dying at the beginning of the movie, and then the journey to bringing him back. That is a worthwhile wait.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that we haven't touched on yet that I think is like really powerful about like the way that like the mother boxes come to life is that it shows you the state of the world by showing you where each of the mother boxes are.
Yeah.
One of the mother boxes is in isolation with cyborg. It's he is one person. There is no man has come together to protect it. There's no unity. There's nothing. It's just one person with a box in his closet. Then you have that juxtaposed with the Amazonians who have not forgotten their duty. They have hundreds of people there with their swords and their shields ready to defend the mother box to a dying breath.
Yeah.
And then you close it off with Aquaman, and it's like there's two people. Yes. They've also forgotten it. There's so much world building.
Wait. Yeah. So I mean, the stark contrast between the competency of the Amazonians and the nature of fallen civilizations that have completely forgotten about the existence of. So it's like it's just ignorance when it comes to man, but when it comes to the Atlanteans, that is sheer incompetence and foolishness on Orm's part.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Off of just visual from what we get in the prologue, you could assume it's like they've either forgotten or something's going on. But as we get into the film, for sure, Orm is just it's almost like it's willing ignorance.
Well, I would say from this prologue, you can see that there are people guarding it. It is an institution. It's just not well funded.
Yes.
Or well equipped.
Yeah.
Versus, you have to assume that this mother box with Cyborg has not been with this 20-year-old kid for 5,000 years.
Yeah.
So it has to have gone through some sort of journey.
Mm-hmm.
And given that it is man, we don't know what a mother box is. So it's been forgotten. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So that prologue setup is fantastic, and we will come back once we've seen part 1.
They will join you when the sun comes.